Hello and welcome to Qubit Networks Tech Talk for March 2022. I'm Josh Mandeville, the CTO of Qubit Networks, and I have with me Dave how do you pronounce your last name?
Zbonski.
Zbonski. Okay, that's what I thought. He's a system engineer too at Fortinet, and he's also a CISSP. Been working with Dave over the last year, 6 months, a year, and you've been a great wealth of information for us, a great resource on a lot of topics. How are you today?
Great, thank you.
Good. Kind of started to get out of winter, and now it's kind of coming back, and now we're starting to get out again. So hopefully all's on the up there.
Yeah, increased daylight is nice.
Exactly. Can you tell us a little about yourself and maybe your road to Fortinet and how you became a systems engineer?
Yeah, I've had a passion for computing ever since I was young, and so I started working at a young age in the industry. I've got over 25 years of experience now, and most of my time is spent doing networking and security. So I've done a little bit of university level education work and worked at a number of corporations as network engineer, network architect, and I've worn a great number of hats and worked with many, many products over the years. And then more recently, somebody had recommended Fortinet as a company to work for. And so I doggedly pursued a job here, and I've been loving it. It's a great company. We've got some great products, and I've been really enjoying my time here. I'm 3 years in now.
Actually, we were talking earlier, and that's kind of why we thought we'd talk to you about this. Is we've had many companies trying to renew their cyber insurance, and a new thing that's come up. Well, not new, but newer as it's gotten more in detail as to what they want is two-factor authentication. And we've seen two-factor now on cyber insurance applications. And now it's starting to ask about two-factor in many other areas rather than just a generic two-factor question. It's beginning to get a little more granular. I know Fortinet has FortiAuthenticator, which is a great product. Why do you think insurance companies are requiring two-factor and getting a little more granular in that request?
A lot of hackers use social engineering, so they're working on tricking people into exposing their details or their data. If they put up a fake website, you inadvertently type your password in. That's all the attacker needs to gain access to the organization is one person's credentials and know where that organization is. So having more than just those credentials, which is the two-factor authentication, thwarts that style of attack. So it's very important to have two-factor authentication, particularly on the edge or on machines that can leave the building. And Fortinet offers FortiAuthenticator, which we were talking about. And I love talking to customers about this particular product for two reasons. One, the breadth of platforms supported by FortiAuthenticator is very wide. So we can integrate with Google, we can integrate with Active Directory, we can integrate with Azure Cloud Active Directory. And then the protocols that we use, we support SAML and OAuth, so we can do single sign-on with the product. And the best thing for my customers that I just absolutely love about it is it's a perpetual license. So many manufacturers are moving to a subscription model. So, hey, you want to use our software? That's cool, but you're going to pay every year. You're going to rebuy that software every year. For the FortiAuthenticator solution currently is a perpetual license. So you buy it, you own it, you pay the support on it annually. If you buy virtual tokens, those are owned perpetually. And if somebody leaves, you revoke their token, reissue it to somebody else. So It's a really cool product that I am happy to share with customers, tell customers about.
And I believe you guys offer a virtual machine and hardware appliance. So if you want it to run a virtual machine or you want a specific hardware appliance for FortiAuthenticator, you can do both.
That's correct. Almost all of our solutions are offered in a on-prem VM, on-prem hardware, or a cloud-based solution. Cloud-based is the recurring model, but if you buy the on-prem solution, that's the one-time charge for the equipment, and then just recurring support, which is a relatively nominal fee.
So me and you got into a talk about this. Was it last week? I think we were looking at seeing the question on cyber insurance. Can you two-factor authenticate your switches? Are you? That's a question we've seen from two customers on their cyber insurances. Is there network infrastructure, their firewalls or switches, are they two-factor authenticated to locally manage them? And which brought me into, I think it's possible. And then you basically told me yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the mechanisms that we do is you use Radius for your authentication. So you configure your switch or whatever device, AP, anything, to require Radius-based authentication. And you configure FortiAuthenticator to require a token to be sent with the Radius authentication. So you put in your user ID, a delimiter, the token, and then put in your password, and the token and the password get sent down to FortiAuthenticator, and then you're authenticated. So even devices that don't normally support two-factor authentication can be forced to use two-factor authentication using that mechanism.
Can it also use push?
There's also push notifications. So if you have the FortiAuthenticator app on the phone, FortiAuthenticator will reach out and send a push notification to the phone, and it's just a little pop-up on the phone, and you get authenticated.
Tap approve, and then you're in, or
Yep.
whatever the. Yeah, cool.
Matter of fact, let me demonstrate it.
Sure.
I've got a login prompt. I'll hit login, and then on my phone, I get a login request pop up. Then I just hit approve.
Cool. And you hit approve, and you're in.
And then on my screen, I'm then authenticated. So
that's awesome.
Really easy.
That's kind of cool. I mean, it kind of took us back when we first saw that question when someone posted. I was like, "Do you have two-factor on your switches?" And I was thinking, I don't know a switch that does it natively very easily that I know of. So,
and if you happen to be a FortiGate firewall owner, there are two tokens included for two-factor for administration of the firewall. So just on box, no additional charge for anything. You get two tokens for two-factor because we know that it's very important to have two-factor on your firewalls.
So it's built in to manage the firewalls locally on that web interface.
That's correct. And if you're using somebody else's firewalls, you can purchase FortiAuthenticator. It's another point that I kind of, almost every product that we make, you don't have to have anything else Fortinet in order to use it. So keep that in mind. FortiAuthenticator will work in any environment. If you want to use it to authenticate your Cisco switches, you can do that.
That's awesome. No, I think it's a great. It's a workaround for getting two-factor in on your switches without the manufacturer having to do a bunch of weird stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's great. It actually fills quite a bit of holes for at least two customers that we have that are renewing their cyber insurance right now, and the cyber insurance company is asking for that. Now, the other thing that the cyber insurance company is pretty much, and it used to be kind of generic. I think last year is the first time I saw like EDR mentioned, but this year it's actually gotten more granular, asking which EDR do you use. Why do you think insurance companies are requiring EDR now?
Hackers have gotten really good at rewriting their code to compromise machines. So the old school style was, oh, we found a virus, we figured out what it looks like, and now we put a signature in to look for a file that has this particular checksum. That's old school antivirus. EDR does something different. EDR is looking for malicious looking behaviors. So instead of a file that meets a particular criteria, it's activity on a machine that meets a particular criteria. Does this look malicious? And that's the way you stop malware that hasn't been seen yet. So FortiEDR is one of the best solutions. It's actually the best solution out there. It's the most effective EDR solution in the world. And it's really cool in the way that it operates. It operates at the kernel level. It's a software layer driver. It watches disk, network, and memory. And it watches for particular behaviors that if somebody does something that's malicious, like process hollowing. So if someone, if a piece of code tries to write to another process that it shouldn't be writing to, EDR detects that. And before it ever actually happens, we see the attempt. And because we're a kernel level driver, we stop it. So even
Okay.
before something malicious occurs, because it looks like malicious behavior, we stop it. You know, so it's a lot more effective than traditional antivirus.
That's awesome. Do you run into alert fatigue at all with the EDR? I know that's something I've seen on many
A lot
solutions
of
out
the
there.
Yeah, a lot of the solutions out there produce a tremendous amount of alerts. And one of the great things about FortiEDR is there's a one-time installation service that goes along with FortiEDR. Our guys monitor your environment and the installation, and then they tune it so that you're not getting excessive alerts, and
Okay.
we alert on the proper things that we're supposed to be alerting on. Also, one of the things that I think is fantastic is for smaller installations, we can sell large and small, but it's actually required if you're a smaller customer with fewer than 500 nodes that we're protecting, we sell a managed service. So our guys monitor your environment. So
Okay.
endpoint protection is much less of your issue because our guys are watching those alerts. They're
That basically
professionals.
becomes an MDR then at that point, right?
Yeah, it's an MDR, and you know, 24/7, our guys are watching your environment and dealing
That's
with any
great to
alerts
know.
that pop up. Um,
Um,
Another awesome feature of FortiEDR that's unique to our solution is the ability to roll back what a malicious process has done on a machine. So let's say a file gets downloaded, it isn't detected as malicious initially. There is a quick scan that can be done on files as they're installed, but maybe 24 hours later the file's executed and then it begins doing something malicious. It makes some registry changes to make itself persistent. It drops other copies of itself in different directories. FortiEDR monitors that activity. So when that file finally does something truly malicious that's blocked, we have the ability to back out the changes that file's done. So not only do we stop the malicious activity, we can kill the process, erase the file, undo the registry entries, and erase the other files that file had created. So instead of restoring from a snapshot 24 hours later or 24 hours ago, we can unroll what that file did and put you back into a safe place without having to restore from backup.
that's awesome. I think being able to roll back is a huge relief for people.
Yeah.
when they see those demos. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, every other solution out there is saying, well, you got to restore from backup once we find that there's something bad. So with FortiEDR, that is not necessarily the case. You can do that rollback. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you for talking to me today. I really appreciate it. If anybody out there would like more information on EDR or two-factor, please reach out and we'll get you in touch with experts like Dave here. um, Hopefully this was an interesting talk for everyone out there. So thank you for being with me. I appreciate it. And like I said, hopefully you had a good time.
yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Have a
having
great
me.
day.